Today's task, we're going to take some advice off the internet, because internet advice is always perfect, but it makes sense to me. Chanté's Rebel, she's got an issue at higher speeds. You want to describe like what it does?
Oh, yeah. So when I'm going at higher speeds and the road or the bridge is uneven, or there's like a little bump, it goes into the wobble. I had it once really bad on 84 going straight at a higher speed, and I was like, that's it, I'm done. This is where I die. Me and the Lulu are going down.
Now that episode, I was actually following behind her, and I saw the front end doing some weird stuff. So I've been trying to find the Ohlins replacement springs for this. They seem to be impossible. Revzilla's useless in helping. Ohlins has been useless. I know they exist. I've seen videos of it, but as far as trying to buy them, I can't find them. So the suggestion was to pull these forks out and change from the 10 weight oil that it comes with from the factory to a 15 weight oil. Plus I figured she's got 17,000, just over 17,000 miles on this bike, and a little over a year that she's been riding it. You know, the fork oil should be changed anyway. And then once that's all complete.
How does a thicker fork oil help?
So there's valving inside the fork that allow oil to travel from one side of the valve to the other. And depending on the size of the orifices, it either speeds up or slows down. You know, larger size lets more oil through. The fork moves faster, which sometimes you want if you have a heavier duty spring or whatever. In this case, we have a very soft progressive spring. Yeah. Not the brand progressive, just the style of spring. So it's moving a lot at short fork travels, and then it moves less as the fork gets compressed. So we want to slow it down a little bit, give it a little bit more feel. Several people have said that that works. Plus you've got 17,000 miles, so you're due for a checkout. Anyway, we'll change that fluid. We'll get your valve check. You'll have it back soon. See how much she loves riding. But yeah, we're gonna pull this off. We're going to check the steering head bearings while we got it apart, check the brakes, check all sorts of stuff. But the main goal is to swap this out in preparation for our trip down to Daytona in a few weeks. Yay. So we'll see how this thing rides. This is a long shot, I think. I don't know if it's gonna work, but I know in the past when I pulled the forks out to install these, I had a weird balance issue going on. So I know these Woodcraft stands have this spot to connect a ratchet strap. So I connected a ratchet strap, and hopefully as I play around in the front and figure out how to support the front of the motorcycle while letting the front suspension droop, hopefully it stays and doesn't fall over. Although if it does fall over, I guess that makes for some comedic value. I don't know. One thing I'm not going to forget to do is crack these caps loose while the fork is still retained by the triples or doubles, or I don't know what you'd call this one. But I know I don't necessarily have a fork clamp, a fork vise, and based on that, I don't want to struggle to try to hold those fork tubes in place once I get them off, because that would just suck. So like I said, front end on this thing, it's, you know, I get it. It is a basic more entry. It's not the 300, but it is more of an entry level, and they have to do what they got to do to keep the costs down, which is exactly why you end up with a high-speed wobble or other various things. I mean, you know, look, I guess you get two choices, right? Either you're going to have a very expensive Rebel 500 that nobody's going to buy, or you have a cheap one that gives you great access, you know, entry into, oh, that was cool. So, lesson for anyone working on this, If you're taking off the entire bracket, the ABS sensor comes off with it. That's slick. That's slick, because I could see people damaging, and I had already started to crack it loose, so I could see people damaging the ABS sensor. I'm not going to say that I did that before, but I've had to replace an ABS sensor on the GTR. So people can damage ABS sensors real quick. On at least this Honda, it looks like a bolt, right? And I remember the first time I was working on it, I thought bolt goes straight through. Nope. Honda uses this bolt in instead of a nut, or in lieu of a nut. Fancy words. But yep. This comes off, pinch bolts loose, and then we can knock the axle out. That'll be the wheel. Super simple. While we're at it, we'll get a, ooh, you know, 17,000 miles. I think I'm gonna order brake pads for her. I'm not saying she's aggressive, but, you know, not saying she's not. So biggest difference between working on this one and working on this one is that this is a year old. Nothing fights you. And that's cool sometimes, you know, but like the axle here just comes out. And you know what? Sometimes it's nice to have things just come apart and not have to fight everything always. Now, I have an idea that I think will work. I have these old jack stands that we made years ago with rubber pads. If I can lift the front end up and drop the frame right on the pad, that'll let the fork hang. I can see if there's any play in the head bearing, and drop the forks out. Literally running around looking for a piece of wood. If I don't need a piece of wood, I'm tripping over the thing. When I need wood, not that kind, when I need wood to lift a motorcycle or isolate, I can't find it. Watch, as soon as I'm done, I'll turn around, trip right over the piece of wood that I would have loved to have had that would have been perfect. Suitable enough, this'll do. Now, let's see. We're kind of learning together on this, because the last time it just didn't go well. Well, this seems to be working. Let's see. Let's see if the ratchet strap did its job. Well, all right. So this is up enough to try to get this stand underneath there. Let's see if we can't get this one under here. And let's see if it falls down. All right. I really had intended on getting the adapter from, oh, look at that. There we are. Forks that are dangling. I mean, it's not the most stable, but it's stable enough. Next step I'm gonna do here is pop this fender off. That'll separate the forks from each other. I think there's one more bolt that holds the brake line and ABS line. I'll get that out of the way. And then it should be pretty straightforward to drop them out. And then we'll see what's inside, pump out some old fluid, and get an idea of the condition they were in, and get her ready to evaluate whether I guess it's a 50% increase, right? 15 weight to 10 weight. I don't know if it works exactly that way, but an increase from 10 to 15. And people have said that makes a difference. In my head, it makes sense, but you know, sometimes what makes sense on paper and then when you get to the real world, it's two different things. Nice quality. Honda does a nice job, you know. I mean, I get it. Honda motorcycles I have a very good description from one of my Greek friends at work. For one, we always argue whether Greeks or Italians are better, but he often comes up with sayings that make a lot of sense. And well, Honda is, you know, missionary position 3 times a week. It's just your normal, reliable, always works, always there. And a lot of times he's not wrong. You know, I wouldn't think to go 17,000 miles with the without touching the valves on the Ducatis or the Aprilia. But on this, to be honest, I only bought the gasket for the valve cover and new spark plugs because I'm pretty confident that that the valves will be in spec. And oh, that's loose. That's nice. Not really. I mean, I get it. It's a rule. It's a law. Whatever. But come on. But yeah, I don't even expect this bike to need an adjustment. I'm just checking it for peace of mind. The upside is if it needs an adjustment, several Honda dealers are around to get shims from, so that makes that part of life a little bit easier. And both were loose, but they got nylocks, so they weren't going anywhere. I'll snug them down. Yeah, all right, relatively simple. You know, anybody that has a Rebel, you're probably either a newer rider or you're like me, which is that you don't need the latest, greatest, and most powerful of everything, because sometimes riding stuff like this, to me, can be more fun. So these I put on. These don't go on with anything. They just pop in place along with the turn signals as you slide the fork up. These have just a clamp on the top and they pop onto the fork on the bottom. Real simple. I'm gonna remove all this stuff and put it back together. So if you wanted to add this, you could either do it now or you could see how to add this on your own without having to do the fork oil. Process of pulling apart and putting it together, same thing. It's just a little clamp up in here. It's, you know, you don't have to gorilla the thing. Just break it loose. You can pop it out later. It doesn't actually like hold anything really other than the boot up against the lower part, so don't go crazy. Before we pop it completely apart, want to just get a feel for these neck bearings. Oh, they're perfect. They're perfect, no play, nice and smooth, no anything. Nice 8mm hex. One on the bottom, one on the top. I'll mention the torque specs when I'm putting it back together. Like I said, it's nothing crazy. It's nothing that, you know, anybody with a little mechanical knowledge can do. You know, you don't have to go nuts. You don't have to worry you're gonna screw something up, because you probably won't. But if you do, there's videos, there's service manuals. You know, the information's out there today. Not like it was when I was a kid. All right, I'm gonna just take a quick measurement of this. Make sure I know where I'm going. Actually, you know what? I'm not even gonna take a measurement because, yeah, I'll take a picture just to get an idea so I can duplicate it, putting it back together. It looks pretty straightforward. It's not like some where you actually have to take measurements. It's a certain amount of millimeters, or there's a certain amount of lines that have to show. You know, these are stock height, stock adjusted. Okay, axle out of the way, and the forks should come out. I wonder if we can find that out right now together. Oh, here we go. That's the first fork. Fork number 2, just as simple. Whew. It was a whole lot easier than when that FatBoy, I literally had to beat those out. They're bent, they're there, but they were just seized on. Okay, I'm gonna clean this up a little bit and start to take this out and drain the fluid. We'll get an idea of what the fluid looked like after 17,000 miles. This will be what I'll be using. 15 weight, medium heavy, fork oil expert, Motul. I love Motul products. I'm not saying they're the best oil around, but for certain things, I definitely trust them. Gear oil, fork oil, stuff like that. So these forks don't have a ton of pressure. So I'm hoping as I pop, oh, okay, I felt a little bit of pressure release. I'm hoping that these, basically, I hope they don't pop off in my face. All right, there we are. Okay, so no real fear of them popping off in your face. And I'm guessing reinstallation should be, I'm gonna just try it because I'd rather be prepared and know that this will go back together. And it does. These rubbers pull right off generally. And, you know, you probably don't have to, but give you a chance to clean everything up underneath here and get a look at it. Plus, why take a chance to ruin these? You know, they look really cool. They give the bike a much more aggressive stance that really suits, I don't know if it's Chanté's riding style, but her attitude, you know? And that's a good thing. I'm gonna warn anyone that's watching this, I've never done this stuff before. But also, I've never done a lot of things before. And I tend to figure them out. So, I wouldn't be too worried. I'm just saying that in case I ruin your life. I'm covered. No, that's actually just a joke that we do. We say that, you know, Italians will often say, after giving advice, but what the fuck do I know? Just in case we ruin your life. All right, let's pour this oil out. I don't know how much oil is in here. I've seen people do this, exactly this, on YouTube. So, I'm kind of copying. Because like I said, all I want to do is change the oil. We'll get a good idea of how much was in there to know how much to put back in. So I'm going to pump this for a minute and let it drain and let you know. So you know there's a stop on both ends. So when you're pumping it to get fluid out, don't worry about going all the way down and all the way forward. There's a positive stop. So just keep going until nothing comes out. So about 13.5 ounces of fork oil came out. It's supposed to be 14.6. That's factory fill. Now, obviously I've lost a little bit just taking the spring out and stuff. And I'm sure there's some stuck in there that I can't quite get out without completely disassembling. But I know once I get it back together, the checking height is 6.5 inches from the top. So I have a zip tie where this can go right at the top and it's 6.5 inches long. Give me an idea if I'm just touching that, then I'm good. If I'm higher than that, I need to get some out. And if I'm nowhere near it, I'll need to put a little bit more, just a little bit. And a tip to make it easier, I'm gonna start with one about 7 inches long, see how close I am, and I can always compare the two. So just a little tip to not be like, I don't have it, I don't have it, I don't have it, and all of a sudden, up, you're overfull. All right, we are ready to pour some in. Just throw a rag on the ground, keep it looking pretty. 13.5 or so ounces, maybe slightly more, but like I said, I feel like there was some that came out. We'll just pour it in and keep an eye on it because I know we're gonna have to pump it to get some of the fluid into the different places it has to go. That's it. That's it. We'll go nice and easy and get this thing to suck in all its fluids. It is crazy how you could just instantly feel the fluid going through and the hydraulics working. And this is stiffer than it was before. Oh, yeah. I think this will make an improvement. For anyone that works in millimeters, it's 165 millimeters. And I guess more oil came out of the on the spring than I thought. You know, I suppose with this small amount of oil, it doesn't take much to make a change. So I know, let's see, I know I put about 13, a little over 13. It takes 14.6, so shouldn't be more than an ounce. You know what? We'll take a chance. We'll go slow. We'll put a little bit in at a time and see how much it takes to read on my longer than 6.5 inch. So it didn't take much. That means I'm draining some out. All right, we're learning together. Probably would have been good with just that first splash of oil. Literally all it took to go from overfilled to underfilled, like nothing. So we're just gonna go easy because I don't have the tool for that. You know what though? I think if I'm gonna be doing this more often, probably a smart idea. But for this one, I'm showing it without the tool, and I guess this is good for anyone else who doesn't have the tool. You know, it's not all that hard to do. It's not all that complicated. All right, see where we're at. Yeah, we're almost there. Just go slow, I guess. That's what I'm gonna do. I'd rather take my time with this piece and not have to worry about it. Now we're spot on. That's 6.5. That's the longer one. And there we are, we're right at 6.5. So we can pull this thing up, drop the spring in and the spacer, and one fork is assembled. Just a little cleaning left to do, and we can get it back on the bike. You know what? I'm gonna wipe this down. Might as well. I know in all the years, well, now I'm definitely gonna wipe it down since it fell. Years of working with engines and engine builders, I should say. You know, they beat it into your head that cleanliness is next to godliness. So on that note, we'll take their advice and we'll clean this all out. You know, you don't need a piece of dirt sticking up one of your valves, causing you potential issues. This is safety stuff. Don't take chances. Clean everything on assembly. So this thing just goes right into the fork, into the spring, I should say. And that's it. Pop this together. It's very clean. We pop this together and one fork is done. Exciting. Of course. Just need to get it to start. Once you get it to start, you can snug it down nice and easy. Make sure the O-ring is still lubed, you know. Doesn't hurt to always lubricate an O-ring when you're reassembling, because it could go together looking perfect and then, crap, it's leaking. Well, did you lubricate the O-ring? I've done it, and you learn the lesson, usually the hard way. Okay, that's one fork. I'll do the other, pop it together. When I put these back on, so this fork goes this way, right? There's little holes to allow this to work. And I like to line the seam in the boot up with this seam in the fork towards the rear. Just so we're not, you know, putting in dirt or fluids or anything. We're allowing the air to work towards the rear, and looks better this way too. Installation is the reverse, and hopefully it doesn't fight me. I remember this being a little bit of a pain in the neck because you've got multiple things that have to line up to get this to go in, like this cover. Oh, but once it starts going nice and easy, There you go. You see it popped up through the top. Now I can adjust it right before torquing these down. Set this boot back in place. Repeat for the other side. And then we're gonna go for a ride. Once you've got everything installed again and at the right height, which is, I wanna say it's about 3 millimeters sticking up, but it's literally until you just see the fork and cap line. You know, very straightforward. Torque value, on the other hand, I've got conflicting information. I believe it's 24 foot-pounds, but then I also heard 16 foot-pounds for the top and 24 for the bottom. So I think what I'll do is start at 16, see how it feels. So that's 16. I'll do 16 on the top. I've already kind of snugged them a little bit just because I didn't want the forks to move. So 16 feels good. Let's see, 16. So that's 15, 20, 25, 24, 24 and a half, 24. Let's see what 24 feels like. And I know, I think 24 feels good. Yep. I'm gonna go with 24. Come on. All right, 24 pounds. You know what? The whole one different from the other doesn't really make sense to me. The materials, the bolts are the same. So I'll torque the other side and then start getting the rest of this put together. I'm starting to believe these things are supposed to rotate because they're tight and I don't want to break anything, but I've snugged them up. They got nylocks, so if yours are like this, I think they're fine. If yours are tight, let me know. Did I get something wrong or did Honda get something wrong? A piece of advice before tightening the right side rear fender bolt, even though it looks like it's on the left side for me, is that it holds the bracket that guides the brake line and ABS line. But it's not in a fixed position. It can move around a little bit. So, suggestion would be to throw your caliper in place. This way, you can make sure that you've got that bracket at an angle that'll work. Because you can't get to that bolt once the wheel is on. And that would be the worst time to find out that that you don't have it in the right place. Well, while I'm doing this, actually, there is sort of a spot where it goes. But my suggestion would be to still do it this way, just in case, just so you know, you're certain that this thing is gonna line up just right. You know, I'm gonna actually play with this a little bit because it looks like it's pulling on the ABS line or wire, but maybe not. I don't know. I'll play with it a little bit. It doesn't seem like there's any adjustment, so to speak. So if that's the case, well, then it is what it is, and I'm not thrilled with it. Oh, actually, I wonder if as the suspension works, so this is at the lowest point of suspension. Yeah, it's at the lowest point of suspension, so that's the most taut that wire is going to be, so it's probably fine. And again, this is why I talk to myself, because I'll answer my own questions. Make sure your spacers are in place. Make sure the rotor's on the right side. Well, it's the right side, but also it's the right side, so the correct side. And yeah, just pick it up, keep those spacers in place, and it should be one of the easiest tires that you'll ever have to do. Should be. Not always. Get it close. get that axle started, fit it to the other side, and like I said, one of the easiest tires you're gonna do. This should be simple. I didn't touch anything, so it should just go right back in place the way it came off. And I'm gonna put all the torque specs that I used along with the oil that I used in the description. This way, if anyone wants to do this, I'll make it as easy as I can for you. I'm not gonna know for sure just how this is because I don't use this bike for the most part. It's Chanté's. I service it. I do quick road tests. I'll do a quick road test on this today to make sure it feels okay. But it's gonna be her input when she puts a few hundred miles on it, going, you know, maybe an upstate New York trip or something like that. And I will definitely get her opinion on it at that point. You know, you'll get my opinion on it shortly. My opinion generally with this bike is that it's a fun bike. I mean, I really enjoy this bike. I think it's underrated. I don't think people give it enough credit. And people also seem to have this idea in their head that, oh, it's just a 500. Oh, it's just a 500. I mean, come on. Seriously? We went down to Daytona last year and we rode down. We rode down with, she rode this one, packed with luggage, and I rode the Tuono, the V4, packed with luggage, side bags and stuff. Nobody batted an eye that I rode that down from New York to Florida. But when they saw this and they told her, you rode a 500 to Florida? Wow. And I'm sitting there going, why wow? I don't get it. And the reason I don't get it is because, you know, I look back at the past, right? So Harleys, years ago, they traveled cross country, and this thing makes just shy of 50 horsepower, right? So front axle bolt torque, 38 foot-pounds. So yeah, they went cross country, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 67, 38. They went cross country with considerably less power, considerably less technology than this Rebel has. Right, 38 foot-pounds. So if they did it, then what's so shocking about a modern bike with modern brakes and ABS, and, you know, reasonable facility of suspension, you know, similar power and all that stuff? What's so crazy about going, you know, New York City to Florida? I don't get it. Like I said, this thing's got over 17,000 miles. We got it in February of 23. So, you know, what are we, a year and a half later? I think this thing's been phenomenal. Caliper bolts are 22 foot-pounds. There you go. I'm going to, only because I loosened it, give the ABS sensor just a double check, because yeah, just do it by hand. You don't have to go crazy. Don't gorilla the thing. It's a small bolt. Yeah, I loosened it thinking it had to come off, not realizing that the caliper bracket comes off with the sensor. Live and learn. Hopefully I saved someone a step. How on earth did I lose a 10 millimeter? I didn't even use a 10 millimeter. That's, well, I guess expected. Maybe there's some truth to, oh, there it is. Why though? I mean, did it jump out? Why? I didn't use you. I want to get it off these jacks and off the pit stands too, before I snug up on the pinch balls, just to rock the suspension a few times. Also, oh, so simple. This was a good idea. Reconnect the horn. This is the only thing I had to disconnect to get this stand up under there. Yeah, also I want to compress the suspension a little bit to make it easier to reinstall these. I don't want to have to tug on them too much while tightening. Just makes life easier, you know. These, like I said, they're super straightforward. I like to tuck the clamp sort of up under the bottom dog bone, triple, whatever you want to call it. You know, get it a little bit tight and a little snug. When you're going to do the final tightening, just keep it snugged up against there. Snug it down. She stays. She's been on there for quite a while. Have not had any issues with it moving or popping off down here or anything like that. A couple of bounces, and then it's 16 foot-pounds. I like to go down on these one side to another. It's probably the suggested way to do it, because you'll find you'll get to tighten one and then the other one will loosen up. So go side by side, you know, nice and easy, and then go up to the torque setting, which should be right about here. All right. And like I said, you'll tighten one and the other one will loosen up. Just a little bit, ever so slightly. So go back and forth, double and triple check. Better to check them now than to have them loosen up out there. The very last thing I'm going to do, I think there's a torque spec for these. I'm going to double check, but worst case, probably just be able to snug them down. I mean, they weren't super tight when I took them apart. I'm going to double check on a torque spec though. From what I see, it said 22 Newton meters, which is like 16 foot-pounds. So I'm going to just go with the wrench, because I know these threads can likely handle a lot more than 16 foot-pounds, and this will be just fine. Don't go crazy. Okay, I think that's about it. Ready to go, ready to ride. Still much more to do before Daytona, but at least that aspect of it's taken care of, and fingers crossed the suspension's improved. I'll say so far on the street she feels good. It's it's kind of interesting. As bad, well, I shouldn't say bad, but as kind of low end the suspension is, I want to say that, like entry level suspension on this bike, it's like, I don't know, 1,212 times better than the old Tour Glide. So I find that amusing. I'll tell you, this Vance & Hines exhaust, just sounds pretty good. Fingers crossed. I can kind of see the highway. I think, at least right here, it doesn't seem to be traffic. I'm not going to go far, but I just want to get a feel for it on the highway, make sure that everything feels right before turning it back over to Chanté and getting her 100% opinion, review, and also just make sure she's safe on it. So until then, I get to listen to this thing. So she actually feels pretty good. You know, I didn't say too much on the highway because I was just trying to pay attention, you know, feel any sort of oscillation, feel how it was over the bumps. We're known for our bumps here, or at least on the Harley it seems that way. But you know, she feels pretty good, pretty good. You know, again, I think it'll be it'll be when Chanté takes this, and she's had the most seat time on it, so she's going to be the one to say for sure if it helped or it didn't. But it's a beautiful day, but it's a windy day. But since there was traffic coming back, I figured we'd go down Emmons Avenue through Sheepshead Bay. There's one of the spots that was suggested. I have a couple of specific places in Sheepshead Bay to hit once I get the suspension for the Harley sorted out. But I always find Brooklyn and New York City very interesting because, you know, here we are coming through here. This is the city, right? But we're also an island, and you could just smell the salt air. It's just glorious. And from this intersection, what you could smell is the food from Roland Roaster. So that's going to be one of the specific stops that I make when I take the Harley out here. This place has just been here forever, and I love it. Right here, Roland Roaster, the one and only since 1970. We've got a couple other really good spots up here. I think I'll do that. I'll do a Sheepshead Bay restaurant crawl, or Emmons Avenue restaurant crawl. That'd be funny because you got Roland Roaster, right? And then this one doesn't exist. We pretend that it doesn't exist. But up ahead you've got Rendazzo's. You know, just excellent food, excellent Italian seafood. They've been around forever also. You got some newer stuff, some different types of food, different cuisines, you know. That's that whole melting pot of New York, right? But back to the Rebel. I think, well, hold on. Rendazzo's. Gotta go there. Scungili calamari. But yeah, as far as the Rebel, I do think it was an improvement. You know, we'll get her opinion, but feels good to me. That'll be it for this job. I'll update in the future with her opinion, but I gotta get to checking these valves. You know, I said it earlier, I'm not really concerned that it needs it. It's just more about making sure it doesn't need it, you know. Okay, now come on. See, that's just wrong. Forget the scooter, which I already hate. But that guy didn't have a pedestrian signal or a red light. That's every bicyclist in New York City, you know. And then they want you to share the road and follow the rules. They don't follow the rules. Let's see, same guy. Is he gonna stop? Of course not. I get in that, forget about it. He's gonna lose his shit. Enough of a rant. New York is what it is. It just, at least he's got a helmet on. What are you gonna do? So heading back down Neptune Avenue, you know, trying to hit some bumps. I mean, I know I don't have to look very far for bumps, but just trying to hit some main streets where I know the roads are of questionable quality. I guess last few landmarks for today before I call it quits. We got two things right here. We're heading into Coney Island. This is Surf Avenue. We've got the New York Aquarium. But more importantly, we've got Coney Island itself. We've got the Cyclone. With the Cyclone Ferris wheel. We've got the parachute somewhere back there. We've got Nathan's, the original Nathan's hot dogs. Just an interesting small piece of Brooklyn South. I've run off on enough of a tangent riding around, but I'd say this was a successful install. Like I said, I'm going to put the torque figures, parts I used in the description, and in the future I hope to update with good news, with the fact that, you know, Chanté says this thing rides better. I think until then, I'm gonna head back. I've got plenty of other work to do, not just on this, but on the other bike. So I'll head back and I will catch you guys next time. Good luck, ride safe,